What is up, everybody? My name is Nick and I am a super nice guy. Today I'm here to talk about a topic that is very crucial if you are to succeed in this field, and that is having a strong understanding of the design process. The process is something that every designer utilizes to move their work forward from inception and identifying a problem all the way to shipping and delivery of a product or feature. Also, adhering to the process itself ensures a level of consistency as you work through multiple projects and multiple features. Process is also used to clearly demonstrate the work that you've done through case studies on your website, which is very beneficial in things like interviews. So in this video, I'm going to quickly walk through the design process as fast as I can while covering a lot of ground and really doing a crash course 101 on what exactly it is. Let's jump in. So if you were to look up what is a design process, you will most likely see something similar to this. There are a few different takes on it and different flows and things like that, but they're all generally the same. So I'm going to dive into each step here, but basically what we have is phase 1 is discover, phase 2 is define, phase 3 is a prototype or exploration, phase 4 is designing or executing, and then we finish with phase 6, and that is shipping and potentially iterating. Cool, so jumping into the first one, and that is the discovery phase. So what exactly does it mean to discover? The whole premise to this phase is sourcing information so you can do your job effectively as a designer. That involves things like stakeholder workshops, getting people in the same room, asking them questions, sending out surveys to them. What are our business goals? What are user goals? Where are we trying to be in 5 years? What is our value proposition? What are our biggest advantages, disadvantages? Everything I should know from a business level, and so on. We also can get into user interviews. So asking users how they feel about things, qualitative studies. How do they feel about this? Do they enjoy this? Do they not like this? Does this frustrate them? And so on. There are expert interviews. So there are chances when a stakeholder isn't an expert. This could be just someone who is very experienced in a specific workflow or deals with your end users on a regular basis. Or it could be the stakeholder, or it could be other people as well. But really asking these experts anything you can think of so you can fill in the gaps of knowledge that you might have. Other things like empathy maps from the user interviews, plotting down how users feel at different points of the experience. Heuristics, understanding how the usability works. Competitive analyses, which include looking at your main competitors and really auditing their experience and seeing where they might be doing better or worse than yourself. And then finally, data analysis. Hopefully there is some data out there. This is really speaking to quantitative, and that's through analytics tracking and looking at large numbers of data sets around how users are moving through your experience and so on. Cool, well, after we've understood as much information as we could gather, we've learned maybe some potential problems, we've filled our brain sponge up with all information we need to be able to make any sort of design decision we could possibly imagine. Now we're on definition, the define stage. So with define, we're really taking all of this information and distilling it or synthesizing it into really actionable items. It might include creating personas, so you are defining key user roles and gaining empathy for specific types of people. It could include creating user journeys and task flows. So a user journey would indicate how a user is moving through your experience and what are these different points along this journey that will help you gain a better understanding of what they're trying to accomplish. User stories, which I've talked about in another video. So asking yourself, as a blank user, I want to blank so that I can blank. Task flows, such as breaking down the steps it takes for a user to complete a task. Potentially you could get into lo-fi wireframes. Screen flows, so screen flows are just taking standard task flows and associating, actual screens with them. And then information architecture, so plotting out a sitemap or plotting out structures of information based on content, maybe doing exercises like card sorting and bucketing relevant information into themed categories. Next, we get into the prototype and explore. So ideally, The reason this is in the third step is because we've created the toolkit, we've set the foundation, we've gained all relevant information, we've discovered problems, we've created a list of action items to target, and now we are on the point where we need to explore some of these ideas. So maybe we have some ideas. We start sketching. We sketch a lot. We get people together. We all start talking about things. We work in a really lo-fi way that can just throw out ideas and focus on quantity over quality. This can also get into interactive prototypes where you want to vet out some ideas quickly, like in a design sprint, this happens a lot. You pull together more mid-fidelity prototypes and you test them in front of users and you gain quick feedback, and then this will then dictate what happens in the next step. So ideally you're sourcing real user input before getting to final design and delivery. I do like to stress here that concept sketches are very important. I do think it is more of a characteristic of a junior designer to go right into high fidelity visual comps without actually thinking thoroughly through everything, and that is why sketches are so great. In my own work, I love sketching at the beginning because I don't even have to open up Figma necessarily or get into these high fidelity design programs, because I'm sketching out ideas and thinking in my head, what would solve this problem? And I can do it in such a loose way that I'm being as efficient as possible at idea generation. And that is the key here, exploring ideation, thinking about as many possible solutions before moving on. And then after we've explored a ton of ideas and we've started to narrow in, we've reviewed this with our team, with our stakeholders, and we have maybe our own gut feeling about the best possible route forward when thinking about the user, then we make it to design and execute. Here's where we take all of our ideas previously, all of our sketches, potentially wireframes and so on, and we move them into high fidelity comps. So if we have a design system, we start converting pieces over to the design system. We start working in a high fidelity manner that looks as one-to-one as possible as you would like to see the real build. At this point too, if we need interaction design to be thoroughly thought through, we go back into interactive prototypes. We start thinking and looking through how this piece would work if it were functioning in the real world. This is also another great time to do usability testing. So because there is a thorough, essentially, product or flow at this point, we can get it in front of users and test out some of the functionality in a very narrow and targeted way. Finally, after things are very concrete and locked in, we can add things like developer annotations. It's always good to review things with developers and get their buy-in on crucial parts, but anything else, get really detailed with how you annotate compositions so that an engineer doesn't have to ask you a single question. Although we should always be focusing on collaboration across all teams, but to put yourself in the shoes of an engineer, you have to think, how would this work? And ask yourself that about every little nuanced detail. How would this work? How would this look if this happened? If I tried to break this, how should the design behave? These are the things you want to think of and annotate for the engineers so that when they go to build it, they're not running into all of these different scenarios and have no way to move forward. And then we celebrate and we have made it to the very end, and that is the deliverables or shipping of the product or feature. This is when we take time to walk the developer through things, again, get their buy-in, make sure they have no concerns, make sure everything looks great and we don't have to change anything before we hand it over. We do design reviews. We audit the design to make sure there's design QA and everything is up to our standards. We do more user testing. We do more iteration. So at this point, we maybe ship the MVP option, the minimal viable product, but then maybe we have post MVP. Maybe we have a release 2 and a release 3 to phase in different levels of developer engagement. If we can only get features 1, 2, and 3 in, maybe at this point we start focusing on features 4, 5, and 6. So ideally, at this point, there's something known as design developer support. As the engineers are taking your designs and building them, you need to be fully at their disposal for any and all needs they might have. If something comes up and they need design support, how will this function? You need to be there and respond If they need specific assets that maybe aren't accessible or they couldn't find them in the Figma file or so on, you need to be there to hand them to them. Ultimately, they are the ones building it, but it is up to the designer to ensure that the QA of your designs is met thoroughly. In a perfect world, everything has been thought through so thoroughly and there is vision all around. There are no blind spots. Your designs are built perfectly one-to-one. That is amazing. Other instances, you might have to compromise. There might be certain things that come up where your designs are no longer feasible, or they are if you alter something stylistically or change the functionality slightly this way. These are things that can come up in this phase as well, and very experienced designers will be able to pivot and adjust their designs accordingly without sacrificing as much as possible. All right, well, that was the Design Process 101 crash course in a nutshell. If you got something from this video, please remember to like and subscribe, because my whole purpose is to take the information I'm using every single day in my job, stored in my head, and send it out into the world so other people can get to the place I'm at. Alrighty, well, I suppose that's it for now. So until next time, super nice guy out.